Welcome everyone back to another music review. My name is Bryce, and today um, we're going to try to get back on track a little bit. We're going to look around at another, what I like to call the golden age period of Christian music. We're going to take a look at another artist that emerged during that time period. I've got this one, and I've got another one that I want to do for sure. Man, I've got plenty of artists that I want to do, but what I want to do is I'm going to do the review for this one, and then I'm going to do another one where I introduce another artist, and then I think I'm going to go back and take a look at some other albums that were produced by some of the people that we've already talked about, because we got a pretty vast list that we've introduced, and they've produced several albums, so. We ought to go back and take a look at some of those before we continue to add more artists. But I'm going to add this artist today, and I'm going to add one other one, and then we'll go back and do all that. So that's kind of the plan. But for right now, let's take a look at the first album produced by what is fast becoming one of my more favorite bands, and that is Big Daddy Weave. Big Daddy Weave, they produced their first album. It's called One and Only, back in 2002. They put it out with Fervent Records, which I believe is a part of Word Entertainment. I don't know if Fervent Records still exists today. Somebody'd have to fact check me on that, but I know Word Entertainment has kind of become Word Music or whatever, or just Word nowadays. So it's kind of a confusing situation there. But that's the official licensing on the album itself. So that's what I'm going to go with. As to who is part of the group, well, we have Mr. Mike Weaver on lead vocals, acoustic guitar, and also does background vocals. I don't know how you do background vocals and lead vocals at the same time, but I'm sure you have to be incredibly talented, and Mike Weaver is certainly that. And next we have his brother, Jay Weaver, who plays bass, and he also does some background vocals. So those are the only two Weavers in the group. Next we have Jeremy Redmond on electric guitars, and he does a little bit of background vocals. Mr. Jeff Jones on drums, who, come to find out, Jeff Jones lives in my hometown. I have yet to meet him, but hopefully someday. And finally on saxophone, yes, I said saxophone, Mr. Joe Shirk. And I think later in the future too, like Joe starts covering some more of the keyboard parts or piano parts. At least when they play it live, anyway. I don't know about the studio recordings, but when they start playing some of these songs live, he does the piano parts to him as well. Because I know I've seen him play their song "Redeemed," and that's got pretty heavy piano in it. But that is the group, so let's take a look at the album itself. There are 10 tracks on this album. The first one, right off the bat, I don't know of any better way you could start an album, at least for these guys debuting their music. It's the song "In Christ." I'm sure if you're a fan of Christian music, you have probably heard this song. It is awesome from the word go. It's got... sorry, I think I'm catching a little bit of a cold or something. It's got pretty moderate pace to it. It's not like overly fast or anything. It feels faster than what it actually is, if I had to say anything about that. It's got a sax feature, like I said. It's basically the sax gets featured, like if there's not vocal singing. I mean, but yeah, a saxophone in Christian music. This is like, I'll talk more about this later like after I talk about all the tracks, but this is why I love Big Daddy Weave. If for no other reason, that saxophone. The guitar kind of begins this one. It's just like this little riff that it does, and then it gets right into the song. It's awesome. Um, so for the message itself, the song speaks of the identity and things that we have in Christ. Borrows from some various verses. Philippians 4:13 obviously would be one of them, and it's kind of like the summarized version of who and what we are in Christ. But it still though it does its job. I mean, the musicality in this particular song is awesome. It's extremely well written, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I did a drum cover of it on YouTube. Go check that out. If you're listening on YouTube, you can just go and look for it. If you're listening on the website, then just get on YouTube, go to Kuda Expressions. It's all lowercase, one word, no spacing or anything like that, and look for my drum cover of In Christ. It's decent. It was decent enough for me to put on YouTube. So enjoy it though. Just listen to the song. It's a great song. All right, so cheap plugs aside, moving on to track 2. It's the song "Friend Like You." So this one kind of slows up a little bit, yet it's still pretty lively. It's got like a, I'm not entirely sure if it's like a blue, like a lot of their songs like have like this interesting like blues slash jazz slash funk kind of mix to them. It's pretty interesting. I mean, it's like the best way of comparison that I have is if you've ever listened to the opening music for Saturday Night Live. That's the best comparison that I have for this. It's like I can't really define it to a specific genre, so I was just like I want to call them the Saturday Night Live Christian music, basically. That's just what it reminds me of. This particular song, the song is addressed to Jesus and is basically thanking him for being a friend, and and all that entails. It's a pretty good song. I do enjoy it quite a bit. I don't really have any. I don't know if this one was a single. I know In Christ was, but I don't know if this was a single or not. Probably not. But it's a good song to listen to. Track 3 is One and Only. This is obviously the title track. This one's a tad slower than Friend Like You, but the music flows pretty smooth, so it's nice. It's the style's a little bit more it's a little bit more straight than it is, because there's almost like a blues kind of a style to Friend Like You, but this one's a little bit more straight, but it's it's not that much slower, but it is a little bit slower. Basically, the message for this one is no matter what happens in life, the singer declares he lives for one thing and one thing alone, and that is the Lord. Pretty good. So pretty good track. Again, this one was not a single, but um, you know, yeah. I mean, I'd say, I can't. I mean, I can't say that none of the tracks you should listen to. I mean, they're all really good. I mean, this one too is really good. It's probably not the first one that I would go back to, but it's definitely worth a listen to. And you may enjoy it more than me, but once again, I'm not saying that's a bad track either. But anyway, we're gonna move on to track 4, which is Neighborhoods. Now this one is awesome in a sense, but so this one kind of picks back up. It's got like a little bit. It's a little bit heavier on the style, if you can believe it. It's a little bit heavier than either In Christ or Friend Like You. It's really really awesome musically. I will say that. Singer describes how he's got like this. He's got this so kind of a life now. It's just like it's pretty mundane and everything. But when he gets to heaven, everything's gonna be better. And that's kind of the point of the title of Neighborhoods, because it's like when he leaves and goes to heaven, he's like, just tell people that I'm not dying, I'm just changing neighborhoods. It's that's clever writing, and he does make sure to go back in the other verse and comment about how even though he's looking forward to it, he shouldn't ignore what's happening today, and that's a good point as well, because if you do that, if you miss out on what God has in store for you today, then you're potentially not helping someone who needs your help to get pointed to Christ. So that's it's kind of a big deal. Track 5, Being in Love with You. The drums start this one. It's got more of a contemporary feeling to it. Big Daddy Weave will go back and forth between that bluesy funk kind of a feel to actually just playing a little bit more straight contemporary, and that's what this song is. The singer realizes in this one that though the works that he does for God is important, they can't replace the condition of the heart and loving God. So that's a pretty good message. It's pretty much straight out of straight out of that whole concept of works does not constitute salvation, but works are still important for obedience and demonstrating your love and demonstrating the salvation that's in you, but it's not actually salvation. So anyway, track 6, Audience of One. Since I'm on thinking about singles right now, I think Neighborhoods was a single. I know Audience of One was a single, and this is a really good one. It's got a contemporary style to it, but it's a lot more intimate. So this one, in his unworthiness, the singer comes to God with a desire to praise and know God. There's not really anything that I can say that does this song justice. It's just like whenever I listen to it, I just can't help but tune everything else out. It's just one of those kinds of songs that's really good to listen to, and I would highly recommend it. All right, so next is Never Going Back. So this one picks up the style again, and it kind of switches back and forth almost. It's like the half blues funk thing to sometimes half contemporary. It kind of switches on you a little bit, but basically the singer is cutting ties to his old life because Jesus healed his broken heart. That about sums it up in a nutshell. It's musically it's pretty good. I won't say necessarily the best on the track, but it is one of the better ones, I think, musically. So take a look at that one. Sacrifice is track 8. It's got a very contemporary feel. In fact, this one almost feels like it was written specifically for people to sing at church. I don't know what it is. It's just like I can't really picture them singing this song at a concert. I feel like this one is just a song that should be sung in front of a congregation on Sunday mornings. That's just what I envision from it. But nonetheless, it's a really good song. It's about the singer is basically seeking to be a sacrifice of praise, and it's so all that entails, like any kind of surrendering that he has to do, that's what his goal is. That's what his motivation is to be a sacrifice of praise to the Lord. So really, and I can relate to that one. So, and I'm sure a lot of other people can as well. So, that's a good song. It's a pretty solid song. All right, so track 9, Exalted Forever. This one picks up. It's pretty. It's not like overly fast or anything, but it's probably the fastest one on the track. On the album, I mean, if I really wanted to prove that, I would probably say that that, you know, it's probably it's fat. It definitely feels faster than anything else, if nothing else. But the accompaniment doesn't. I mean, you can. It's just kind of it's kind of I don't want to say dull musically, but it's just kind of like laid back musically until about the second verse, and then that's when the accompaniment kicks in. So interesting music choice, but nonetheless, it picks up on kind of picks up on the theme anyway from the previous song, and it's actually being a sacrifice of praise. The whole song is a praise to God, basically. So, and whenever I give a description of this song as a praise to God, you know, you don't really need a whole lot of other explanation than that. If you're curious as to exactly what he's saying, then I advise you to listen to the song. But I mean, when you hear it's a praise to God, you really don't need anything else, do you? Finally, the last track is Rest. So this, bar none, is the most intimate song on the album, and how perfect then that the song is from the perspective of Jesus. And in this, the perspective of Jesus is telling us to bring our burdens to Him, and He'll give us rest. It's that, you know, it's He actually said that when He was on earth. You know, come to me, all you who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest, or heavy burden, and I will give you rest. You know, there's not much lyrically to this song. It's just, when you listen to it, it's like you don't listen to it as Mike singing Jesus's words. Try to picture Jesus himself singing this to you, because in many ways he is singing this to you. He's singing over us constantly, you know. So just that's the thing to take away from this, and in that regard, this is a pretty powerful song. But it seems kind of long though when you look at, like, if you've got it on an iPod and you can see how much time is left or whatever, you know, it seems like a pretty long song. Well, actually, it's really not. See, around the 3-minute 35-second mark, the song's over. And the album just kind of pauses. I mean, it's still playing, but there's no sound in between. And then around the 5:10 mark, it starts playing "Friend Like You" again. Now, admittedly, there's some slight changes to it, but it's basically the same song again. So, I don't know if they just kind of threw that in there as a surprise, but, you know, I mean, obviously they didn't mark it. You weren't expecting it. But the thing is, if that was your intention, you know, they left such a long pause in the middle of it that if somebody didn't know any better, they would hear no music playing and they'd just go ahead and pop the CD out or move on to another track or something, not realizing that anything was there. So, I mean, it's just, if you're gonna do it, I don't know why you would leave such a pause, or at the very least leave it unmarked, you know. It just doesn't, like, could have just said, like, have rest and then / "Friend Like You" again, reprise or something like that, you know. I mean, I don't know. But that's it's minor nitpicking, I guess. But it doesn't make sense to me. I think there's a little bit of an editing problem there. But aside from that, though, I'm not gonna hate on the album for it. The album is amazing. So this album helped change the way Christian music could be played, in my opinion. The uniqueness of this band's sound, to me, it's displayed beautifully by the musicality in the album, and just the transitions from the bluesy funk style to the contemporary. They were smooth. There wasn't anything that was like just stuck out as horribly bad transitions or anything like that. The album is just filled to the brim with good messages. I mean, it's just an album that I totally recommend. I give this one a 4.7 out of 5, and I mean that with sincerity. This album is, you know, it doesn't, you know, does this album do as much musically as all of the Sidewalk Prophets albums that I hold in such high esteem? Maybe not, but there is so much good musicality in this, and there's so much good lyrics in it, and everything just meshes so well together that I have to hold this one pretty high up. This is really good. If I had reviewed this one back at the time of its release, I would have had a pretty good impression about it and high expectations for the future. And being on this end of it, I can look and see where Big Daddy Weave has grown and the kind of band that they've become. And I would say, yeah, it'd be, the future would justify me holding such high expectations because I think this band meets them. So very good band. They've got a bunch of great other music that we'll eventually get to, but um, for a debut album, this is a pretty stout debut album. I think of the music that I've reviewed so far, like only Sidewalk Prophets has really come close and or beaten that. I mean, I know I gave it a slightly higher rating, but it's still pretty much on par with of impressive debut albums. So you know I the only thing I can really say about this one, guys, is please check it out. It's awesome. My personal recommendations are, of course, In Christ, Friend Like You, An Audience of One, and I would also highly recommend Neighborhoods. But I hope you guys enjoyed this music review. I've got another one coming out. I've actually got all the materials written out for it. I'm just going to record it. But please check out the other music reviews. Check out my drum covers on YouTube. Remember, Kuda Expressions, all one word, all lowercase. And check out the site for the other stuff. I've got Bible studies up now. And hope to see you guys, or hope you guys check out the next review. It should not be too long here. I probably may end up posting it the same day, so I'm not even sure. But till then, I will see you guys later.